Hello guys, this is your friend and we are back with a new fanfic. If you enjoying this fanfic then press the like button and subscribe my channel.
Let's start fanfic. Which is what if Tsunade was Naruto's mother instead of Kushina and Naruto got the legendary Senju Harem, Part 2. And now let's start the fanfic. Shizune, leave him until I at least finish feeding Naru-chan. The last thing I need is that perverted toad watching me as I'm feeding the baby, Tsunade angrily said as she tried to calm down the still crying Naruto. Shizune just nodded in acknowledgement and went into the kitchen to get a few things to treat the toad hermit while her sensei finished. 20 minutes later, after Jiraiya had regained consciousness and his composure, long after Tsunade had fully fixed her robes, Tsunade tried to force Jiraiya to clean up the mess he made, but Shizune volunteered to do herself, saying that she didn't want to risk Naruto catching anything from him. Tsunade was sitting at a table with Naruto being cradled in her arms and Jiraiya was across from them. He was smiling as he looked at them since the memory of Tsunade feeding Naruto was still fresh on his mind. "Why are you here anyway, Jiraiya?" Tsunade inquired with a slight frown. She was still a bit annoyed with him for arriving unannounced in the way he did. "Can't a man come every now and then to visit his godson?" asked the smiling sage. "Not in the way you do," Tsunade deadpanned. "Ah, Haim, don't say that, you make me feel unwanted. Besides, if I had announced my arrival, then I wouldn't have been treated with the heavenly sight that I saw not long ago," Jiraiya replied, grinning like no tomorrow. "The boy's living a genuine privilege that is not given to just anyone. I envy his good fortune." Tsunade frowned and snarled at Jiraiya, not missing the perverted meanings behind his statements, while Shizune looked at the older man in disgust. "If I wasn't holding Naru-chan right now, you would be halfway flying to Suna right now," Tsunade said through narrowed eyes. Jiraiya just chuckled nervously and decided to change the subject as to why he was really here. "Alright Haim, all joking aside, you're right, there is a reason why I'm here," Jiraiya spoke, all humor leaving his face. Immediately Shizune and Tsunade straightened up and began to listen intently to what Jiraiya had to say. "As you both know, I left the village to reconnect with my spy network to keep an ear open for any news about anything that may concern you or the Gaki here," Jiraiya said while motioning to Naruto. Both of them nodded since they knew this, although Tsunade did frown at Naruto being called a Gaki but decided to let it slide for now. Currently the other villages are watching Konoha closely to see how badly the military strength was hit during the Kyuubi attack and the loss of Minato. Thankfully Sensei's been able to keep the other villages in the dark about how badly Konoha was hurt, so as far as the other villages are concerned, Konoha is still strong. Plus, Konoha's alliance with Suna is also another thing to make the other villages hesitant to try anything. "So I don't believe that they'll try to attack the village," Jiraiya informed, to which Tsunade just nodded for him to continue. "Also, no one knows about you having Naruto, so I don't think you have to worry about anyone coming after him anytime soon. But you should still lay low like you've been doing since we don't want any trouble, especially at this point and time," to which Tsunade was in complete agreement. "Another thing I learned just last month, some new group is coming out. They're keeping below the radar so to not attract attention and are highly secretive. From what my informants tell me, they'll be big trouble in a couple of years." "What do you mean by that?" asked Tsunade. "The group is currently made up of 6 missing nin and not your run-of-the-mill missing nin. These guys are all S-class missing nin," replied Jiraiya. This shocked both the women present. S-class missing nin was the highest types of ninjas there were, except for few others who was credited with being given a double S-class rank, those being Tsunade's grandfather Senju Hashirama, Sarutobi Hiruzen, Hashirama's arch-rival and nemesis Uchiha Madara, and Naruto's father, Namikaze Minato. It made Tsunade especially worried since shinobi of that caliber rarely ever try to work together since they usually end up fighting or killing one another. The only way for any of them to willing work together would be if they were being led by someone stronger than any of them. Tsunade was worried because anyone that was able to get 5 other S-class missing nin working together would have to be incredibly powerful. Do you know who the members are? Tsunade asked. I known one member but that's it. The rest I don't since like I said, the group is highly secretive, responded Jiraiya. Who is the member that you know of? Our old teammate, Orochimaru. Tsunade frowned upon hearing this. Although she was not there when Orochimaru's treasonous acts were revealed by Sarutobi, she had heard about them not long after. Although she had severed her ties with Konoha, his betrayal still hurt her. He was still her friend at one point. I'm surprised he would be willing to work with others again considering he usually prefers to work alone, spoke Tsunade. My guess is it was a matter of convenience. They most likely protected him and helped him elude the Oinen and us. But knowing Orochimaru, he'll most likely betray them like he did us when it suits him best. Tsunade just nodded her head in agreement. So what exactly do they call themselves? Surely their group goes by some kind of name, and what exactly do they want since S-class missing nins wouldn't really work together without some kind of reason? Shizune asked. They call themselves the Akatsuki and you can recognize them by what they wear. They all dress in the similar outfit. Each member wears dark cloaks with red clouds with a red interior, a chin-high collar, and wear a conical straw hat with small spike-like balls hanging down to cover their faces. As for their plans, I don't really know for certain, but from what my sources tell me they're going after Jinchuriki. To be more precise, they're after the bijus inside the Jinchuriki, Jiraiya answered, shocking both women and causing Tsunade to hold onto Naruto tightly. Or why you certain, Jiraiya? Asked a worried Tsunade, to which the sage just nodded. My advice, Tsunade, is that if you ever see anyone who matches the Akatsuki description, get out and run as far away as you can. Although you could possibly take on and beat one of them, but these guys travel in pairs. When you see one, the other is not far behind, and not even you could take on 2 S-class nin by yourself and protect Shizune and Naruto simultaneously. Tsunade could not help but reluctantly agree with what Jiraiya had said. Do you know what they want the bijus for? No, I don't, but whatever it is, I bet it not good. But despite this, there is some good news, since they have no idea about who the Jinchuriki of the Kyuubi is. Sensei's keeping a tight lip on it all. They know for sure that the Kyuubi is sealed into a child, but they don't know which one, and not counting Sensei were the only ones that know that Naruto is Jinchuriki of the Kyuubi. As long as that is kept a secret, they shouldn't come after him. This of course gave Tsunade some relief, but the nagging fear in the pit of her stomach was still there. Also, from what I have gathered, they won't make any real move against any of the other Jinchuriki for a while, since they are still trying to recruit more members for their group and funds for financing the operations, whatever they are. It'd be a few years before they make any real move against anyone, and it means we still have time to prepare. Naruto, which got a look from Tsunade that said he better not be talking about what she thought he was thinking of. Now Tsunade, don't give me that look. I know you don't want to hear this, but you have to, since it's for Naruto's good as well as everyone else's. The Akatsuki members are no amateurs. They will eventually figure or find out that Naruto is the Jinchuriki of the Kyuubi, and when they do, they will come after him. So when Naruto is old enough, we will have to train Naruto to be a shinobi. At this point Tsunade was about to interrupt, telling him no, but before she could, Jiraiya cut her off and continued. Tsunade, like Sensei said, Naruto has the blood of some of the strongest shinobi to ever exist running through his veins, with you being among them as well. I doubt you could stop him from becoming one, and the stronger he becomes, the better his and our chances are against the Akatsuki when they do finally come. Also, Naruto will have to learn sooner or later that because of whom he is, who he related to, and what he is, he will always have to watch his back. There will always be those who will want to either use or destroy him because of what he may one day become, said Jiraiya with finality. After Jiraiya finished speaking, Tsunade remained quiet and just looked down at her son, who had finally stopped squirming and was falling asleep in her arms. As she did, she found herself silently cursing Minato for the 1000th time for turning her son into a Jinchuriki. After several minutes of just looking down at her sleeping son, Tsunade finally looked back up at Jiraiya. When she did, Jiraiya saw a look of determination in her eyes that he had not seen in many years. If that's the case, then so be it. When he is old enough, we will both train him. If any of these Akatsuki bastard try and take my son from me, they will have to go through me first, and they will find out firsthand why I am a Sannin, said Tsunade with a fire of determination in her eyes. Jiraiya saw this and just smiled and nodded. He could see that the love she had for Naruto and her maternal instincts to protect her child had reignited Tsunade's fighting spirit, one that he thought had long been extinguished. Shizune herself also made a silent vow as well to help with Naruto's training. Although she was not as strong or knowledgeable as either Jiraiya or Tsunade, she would help to protect her godson in whatever way she could. That night, Tsunade was sleeping peacefully in her room. All was serene until Naruto started crying in his crib. Tsunade woke up to this and got up off her futon. Going over to Naruto, Tsunade picked him up and held him, resting his head on her shoulders while gently rocking him in her arms. Naruto soon calmed down and quieted, much to Tsunade's delight. After another minute, Tsunade said thoughtfully, "I bet you're hungry, my little Naru-chan." Tsunade sat down on her futon with Naruto and prepared to feed him. Just as she was about to open her night kimono, the door to her room opened, revealing Shizune cradling something in her arms. "I'm sorry, Tsunade-sensei," Shizune said. "I came in earlier to change Naruto's diaper when you were sleeping, and I was just bringing him back now. I didn't want to wake you." Tsunade then saw that Shizune was cradling a fully awake Naruto in her arms. When the slug Sannin saw that, she knew that something was definitely wrong with this scene. "Wait a minute," Tsunade exclaimed. "If that's Naruto, then who am I?" Looking down at her arms, Tsunade saw that she was cradling a wooden log in her arms. While cradling the log, she turned and saw Naruto, quietly attempting to crawl and sneak away from her towards the opened window. As Naruto was making his way towards the window, he then felt an extreme bloodlust approaching and coming from behind him, as well as the sickening cracking of knuckles that became infamous whenever Tsunade was about to dish out a lot of pain. As he fearfully and slowly turned his head, he thought of one word that he thought might have saved him with puppy dog eyes and the ing of his right thumb, "Mama." Sadly, it did not work, and Tsunade sent him soaring out the open window, where she quickly followed after him. The same small figure came crashing hard into the ground, forming a crater in it. The figure transformed back into his real self and was in much pain. He felt several of his bones break and was sore all over. "Wow," Jiraiya mourned. "So close, damn that Shizune. I was just a few seconds away from paradise, and I was really looking forward to having some of that good stuff she treats Naruto to." But before Jiraiya could finish what he was saying, he suddenly felt a dark shadow hovering over him, as well as a familiar bloodlust and killer intent on him again. He slowly and fearfully turned around and was again faced with Tsunade, who had a sadistically sweet smile on her face again. "You didn't think you get off that easy, did you?" Tsunade asked rhetorically as she hovered over him. As she came closer to him, Jiraiya could only whisper one word: "Mercy." But sadly for the Toad Hermit, there would be none. For about 10 minutes, terrifying screams of pain and abject misery could be heard by all who were still awake. Several miles away, a young couple who were quietly looking up at the full moon and a bright star in the night, when suddenly the women pointed up at a small object was soaring through the air. "Look, it's a shooting star, let's make a wish." "I don't think that a shooting star, sweetheart," said the man. "Then what is it?" asked the women. "I don't know," he replied, when suddenly a loud ear-splitting cry, "Yahoo-hoo-hoo-hooey!" Several miles further away, the shooting star then came crashing hard into the ground, forming yet another crater. The shooting star was in fact Jiraiya, who slowly crawled out of the crater before checking himself for whatever additional damages that was done to him by Tsunade's beating and as a result from the impact to the ground. In any case, he was in for a long crawl back to Tsunade house and a whole world of pain. Meanwhile, back where Jiraiya first landed, A very pissed off Tsunade was standing outside the first crater Jiraiya landed in and looking up at the night sky. Damn perverted excuse for a life form, Tsunade stated. I just might kill him if he pulls that stunt again. After which she then went back to the house to kiss her son goodnight before going to bed again. 1 month later. A month after Jiraiya came to give to his news on the Akatsuki and his failed attempt to be fed by Tsunade, things settled down again. The house even had one new occupant, said occupant being Jiraiya. He had decided to stay for a little while to spend some time with his godson and get to know him a little. In which case, he acted as part-time babysitter whenever Tsunade and Shizune were out helping to treat the villagers. Both women agreed to allow Jiraiya to babysit on the condition that he not try and corrupt Naruto into becoming a pervert like him under the threat of castration and disembowelment with dull kunai and bare hands. It was after a long day from healing a large number of people who had traveled from the outer parts of the village to get Tsunade to treat their various ailments that when she and Shizune came back to the house to find Jiraiya watching Naruto. The baby was playing with 3 small summoned toads that Jiraiya had summoned for Naruto to play with, which Naruto loved doing since he would waddle after the toads as they hop around the room with him trying to catch them. When Naruto saw his mother and Shizune, he squealed happy and waddled over to him mother to hug her, and as he went over to her he said, "Mama," which surprised them since they did not expect Naruto to be speak this way for few more months. Since he had shown no real signs of trying to speak other than babbling. Tsunade then picked up Naruto and asked, "What did you say, Naru-chan?" "Mama," repeated the blonde baby. This caused her to hug and cry in joy for her son at speaking his first real word. "What a smart boy you are, Naru-chan, you only started walking a few weeks ago and now you're starting to talk." "Naruto, can you say Hakubo, auntie?" "Can you?" asked Shizune as she gained Naruto attention. "Nei-chan, Nei-chan," Naruto said. "I doubt you'd get any better than that, Shizune," Tsunade chuckled. "Oh well, I guess being his Nei-chan isn't so bad," replied Shizune as she grabbed little Naruto's nose and wiggled it a little, which made him laugh. "Hey Naruto, do you know who I am?" "Do you?" asked an excited Jiraiya when he came up to Naruto to find out what he'd call him. "Pervert, pervert," replied Naruto as he pointed at Jiraiya, causing the sage to face fault and Shizune to giggle loudly while Tsunade smiled and laughed even harder. "That's my little boy, such a smart boy just like his Ka-chan," laughed Tsunade as she turned around to go into the kitchen with Naruto. "I resent that remark, I'm not a pervert," cried Jiraiya as he stood up. "Then what are you?" asked Tsunade turning around slightly. "I'm a super pervert," grinned Jiraiya, after which an annoyed Tsunade elbowed him in the face and sent him flying to the other end of the room, resulting in him hitting the wall. "Damn pervert," muttered Tsunade as she went to the kitchen with Naruto and Shizune following closely behind. 1 month later. Currently Jiraiya was in Tsunade's house watching over Naruto again. Tsunade and Shizune had gone out to a small farm several miles out of the village to help the daughter of the farmer who was severely ill and in need of treatment. As he was watching Naruto, he was also trying to come up with new ideas for his latest book, but unfortunately he was having a severe case of writer's block. After a while he decided to take a walk around the village since he thought that the fresh air and exercise would do him good and re-energize his writer's imagination. As he walked around the streets of the town carrying Naruto, many young girls and women came over to him when they saw him carrying him. They started to surround them, commenting on how cute he was and adorable his whisker marks made him. Soon enough Jiraiya quickly realized that Naruto was a babe magnet and began cursing himself for not thinking of the sooner. After the women that had surrounded him and Naruto left, Jiraiya quickly ran to the village hot springs entrance where he knew that most women came out at this time to go home for the night and quickly put his plan into action. When Jiraiya saw a group of women coming out of the hot springs, he quickly acted as though he was about to enter himself. Jiraiya began to hum when the women ran toward him, commenting on how cute Naruto was. "Yes ladies, he is very cute, isn't he?" queried Jiraiya. "Is he yours?" asked a random woman. "Why no, he isn't, he's actually my godson." The women then began to swoon over Naruto, commenting how adorable he was with his whisker marks or how beautiful his eyes were, and asking more questions about him to Jiraiya, who was far too busy looking at their to answer any of their questions. As all this was happening, Naruto grew more and more confused as to why all these strange ladies were surrounding him. Unfortunately, the confused look that appeared on his face made him all the more adorable to the women, who began to pinch his cheeks and ruffle his spiky hair. Jiraiya smiled as he continued to ogle the swooning and silently thanked Kami for his godson's cuteness. Things seemed as though they were only going to get better when Naruto tried to grab onto the woman's finger with his small little hand, which earned him even more attention from the women. "Oh, he's trying to grab my finger. He's so adorable, isn't he?" said a brunette woman. Naruto, who was still a little confused at where he was, but when he looked up to see his godfather smiling back at him, he immediately giggled and decided to enjoy all the attention and began to bounce up and down in his godfather's arms, which only made the women attract to him even more. Jiraiya couldn't believe that Naruto could get him this much action and made a mental note to hint to Tsunade that he could watch him whenever she needed him to. Jiraiya began to think about how he could milk this even further when he suddenly remembered the time when Naruto wouldn't stop crying when he first babysat for Tsunade, and he summoned a toad which he almost squeezed into oblivion. Jiraiya smirked and patted himself on the back for his brilliant thinking, and then quickly summoned a small toad and ordered the toad to hop into Naruto's view. While Naruto was hopping up and down in Jiraiya's grasp, the toad jumped onto Jiraiya's shoulder. Naruto immediately stopped bouncing when he saw the toad and began to reach for it. The women awed at Naruto's actions and became even more infatuated with the young boy when he was able to get a hold of the toad and begin hugging it for dear life. Unfortunately, as Jiraiya was busy trying to make his move on the young village women, Tsunade and Shizune were entering the village after finishing with helping to treat the daughter of the farmer. They then decided to head for the hot spring to relax a little before returning home, since they believed that they deserved a little downtime after helping the young girl. When they were nearing the hot spring entrance, they saw a large group of women surrounding a tall white-haired man with a small blonde-haired boy in his arms who was squeezing a poor toad to near death. Tsunade quickly realized that the blonde boy was her son and the tall white-haired man was Jiraiya. She then quickly realized that Jiraiya must have been using her son to attract women. When she realized this, one thing was on her mind: kill Jiraiya, slow and painfully. As Jiraiya was about to make a move on the women, he suddenly felt a sense of dread wash over him and realized that his teammate must be somewhere nearby. Jiraiya's fears were confirmed when he turned around and saw Tsunade stomping right towards him with a very angry Shizune right behind her. She too knew what Jiraiya was doing with her nephew, little brother, godson, and for once she would not try and calm Tsunade down, she would actually help her kill Jiraiya. "Hi Saya, what's up?" asked a very nervous Jiraiya. "Oh, not much. I was just coming back from helping that young farm girl who got ill and decided to come her to relax a little, and then I saw you and Naru-chan here. I was just wondering why you were here when I thought you'd be at home," said Tsunade all too sweetly for Jiraiya taste. "Oh, well, you see, I just wanted to spend some time with him, and, as you can see, he is very happy," spoke Jiraiya nervously as he tried to come up with a good excuse to avoid being beaten to a pulp by Tsunade and probably Shizune as well. When Tsunade looked at Naruto, he was indeed happily squeezing a poor toad to death. "Well, Jiraiya, tell your friends goodbye because we need to get Naruto back home before it gets too late since it's nearly his bedtime," said Tsunade with a look in her eyes that promised pain when they got back. Jiraiya informed the women that he and Naruto had to go, and all the women sighed, though knowing that the boy's mother wanted him home. So they reluctantly said goodbye to the pair. "So Saya, let's get going," said Jiraiya. "Oh, I agree wholeheartedly," said Tsunade, who took Naruto away from Jiraiya, who began to walk away. "And just where are you going, Jiraiya?" said Shizune, who was twirling her Senbon needles, which made Jiraiya very nervous. "Back to the house like you said." "Oh, we have a much quicker way for us to get there," said Tsunade. Tsunade and Shizune each then placed their hand on Jiraiya's shoulders and the four of them were shunshin back home. Well Tsunade, I should get going. You can put Naruto to bed and I'll go myself since I better get back on the road again, Jiraiya quickly said and tried to get away but Tsunade grabbed him by the collar and forced him to the ground. Tsunade looked at Jiraiya and then told Shizune to put Naruto to bed while she had a talk with the terrified Toad Sage. Shizune left the room with Naruto who was cuddling the toad while Jiraiya pleaded with Tsunade. Shizune, before you put Naruto to bed see if he might be hungry, said Tsunade as she began to crack her knuckles. I will sensei but please save a piece of him for me, please, Shizune replied as she went to the next room. I'll try but no promises. I'm sorry I just wanted to take Naruto to meet some new people, that's all I swear, pleaded Jiraiya on bended knees. I see. Jiraiya, I would like you to meet someone that you are very familiar with. Who? The end of my fist. After which for the next hour screams of pain from a certain super pervert could be heard for several miles around. Currently sitting down on the porch of her new temporary home was Suan drinking a small plate of sake. As he looked out to the trees near to her, she saw her son 5-year-old son Naruto, whom she had been watching for the past 4 hours running up and down the tree he had been climbing by channeling his chakra from his feet. Suan could not help but smirk at all the energy that her son had. Most kids his age wouldn't have enough chakra to go up even a quarter ways up the tree, let alone be able to channel their small chakra reserves to their feet and even try to walk up the tree. They had began Naruto training when he was 4 and slowly increased the training little by little. At first they only had him running, but soon after they started him to teach him to read and how to channel chakra, do different exercises and wear weights. It had been a trouble getting him to settle down enough so to teach him to read, since like when he was a baby Naruto was still a very active child who did not like to stay still long. But eventually they were able to get his interest into reading by having plenty of pictures with animals on it since he enjoyed animals. Over time Naruto gained an interest in reading especially if the books had pictures in it. Also when they started to train Naruto in his chakra training they learned that the best way to teach him was to visually show and explain it to him, so to keep his attention since he could be easily bored. But even still when Naruto started to train to control and use his chakra they learned 2 things. The first was that he had very high chakra reserves for a boy his age. Currently Naruto's chakra level was that of a young genin and although that does not seems very high, the fact that a 4-year-old boy had that level was astounding. When Tsunade asked Jiraiya about this he said it was not unexpected for Jinchurikis to have high chakra levels. Due to them having a demon spirit inside them where their bodies would adapted to handle the strain by having their chakra coils thicken and reserves become larger, so they can handle the Excel chakra that would come from their bijus after being diluted by their seals. The second thing they learned was that Naruto had inherited her natural flawless chakra control. They learned this when Naruto was given his first chakra control exercise and to keep a leaf stuck on his head in which he got it on the first go after it was explained to him. It was proven even further when he was able to channel his chakra to his feet and walk up on a tree with just his feet. This was surprise since in most cases whenever someone had large chakra reserves their control was not very good. While when someone had excellent chakra control they had small reserves, but Naruto had both without either of the negative effects. When Tsunade and Jiraiya learned this it pushed away any remaining doubt about Naruto being a highly skilled ninja one day. The reason why Naruto was doing the exercise now was to help increase his stamina, not that it needed much improving since Naruto proved to be a stamina monster, and in the increase of his chakra reserves while at the same time keeping his control high as well. Okay Naru-chan, that enough for today. Why don't you take a break for today since you don't want to overexert yourself by training too much, said Tsunade as she saw her son was getting tired. But Ka-chan, pant. I can, pant, still, pant, keep going, pant, said the clearly tired boy. Tsunade just smiled at her little boy trying to act tough. I know that Naru-chan, but why don't you and me go into town and have an ice pop since it's such a warm day and is a reward for working so hard? At this, little Naruto smiled and jumped up and yelled happily at having a treat, after which he and his mother went downtown. Not long after, Naruto and Tsunade were walking through town eating an ice pop. Tsunade had her special genjutsu on, where everyone in town saw her as a medium-sized raven-haired woman with blue eyes, while Naruto just saw her as she usually was. As they walked by, Tsunade saw an open casino and decided to have a look around, where she and Naruto went in. Although Tsunade had swore not to gamble away their money like she used to before she had Naruto, she did do a small bit of gambling by doing the slots and only spending a small amount. As they walked around the slot area, Tsunade saw a quarter on the ground and picked it up. She then decided that one go at the slots wouldn't hurt. Just when she was about to put in the coin, Naruto suddenly spoke up. "Ka-chan, what are you doing?" "I'm just playing a game that grown-ups play for fun," replied Tsunade, since it was kind of true. "Can I play?" asked Naruto, who was stilling his ice pop. At first Tsunade would have said no, since Shizune would most likely lecture her about giving Naruto her bad gambling habits, but she decided that one go at the slots would not make her Naru-chan an addict. "Okay Naru-chan, you can have one go, okay," said Tsunade, to which the young boy just nodded. She then showed him where to put the coin and then held him up so he could pull the lever. The reels in the machine started to spin for a few seconds before they started to slow down, where the first one stayed on the gold coin image, the second stayed on another gold coin and was followed by a third gold coin. After which the slot machine started to light up, the bells in the machine started ringing as well, where coins then started to fall out the machine. "Naru-chan, you won," cried a shocked Tsunade. "I did, yay," said the boy happily. "Can I do it again?" he asked. "WWE, why not, it couldn't hurt," said Tsunade, thinking Naruto might as well as used his lucky streak while he had it. For the next hour Naruto kept playing the slots, and every time he won. It was unbelievable. Tsunade had never heard at anyone being so lucky at gambling before in her life. "Figures, while I get all the bad luck when it comes to gambling, but my kid has all the luck in the world and is natural gambler. This must be Kami bitch slapping me again like this," though Tsunade annoyed. It was as she was thinking this that Tsunade quickly decided to try something else to see how lucky her son really was. "Hey Naru-chan, how about we go try another game?" said Tsunade. "Okay." After which Tsunade quickly brought all the buckets that she had gotten to carry the coins Naruto won and ground them to be exchanged for chips. After then she then brought Naruto and the chips to the crap table, where she simplified the rules, where all he had to do was throw the dice and try and keep getting good numbers like 7 with the dice. After Tsunade had placed Naruto bets for him, he began to throw the dice like he was told, and like with the slots, Naruto kept getting the numbers he needed and was cleaning house at the crap table. "My little Naru-chan, a gambling genius," cried Tsunade happily as she hugged his son tightly when she was seeing how much money her son was winning. Naruto just struggled to breathe as his mother smothered him in between her two large mounds, much to the envy of the men who were watching Naruto play. After the dealer at the crap table had told them that they could no longer play there, Tsunade decided to take their winnings, a stagger 20 million ryo in chips, and went to the roulette table and put Naruto gambling luck to the true test. "Okay Naru-chan, this is simple. All you have to do is tell Ka-chan what number to pick and money we put the money on it, okay? Remember what Ka-chan said earlier, it all or nothing," said Tsunade, to which Naruto, in understanding. Tsunade the placed the boxes full of chips on the table, and just when she was about to ask Naruto what number, a familiar voice shouted out which make her cringe. "Sensei." Several minutes earlier, Shizune was travel through the streets with her shopping with Tonton and was on her way home when she suddenly saw a large group of people in the local casino. As she walked by, she heard some people mutter about some women and her kid were cleaning up in the casino. Deciding to have a look, she went in. And when she did, she saw the women was none other Tsunade with Naruto betting at the roulette, at which point she cried out angrily to her sensei. He, Shizune, how it's going," spoke Tsunade like a kid who had its hand caught in the cookie jar. I was fine until I came in here to see what all the fuss was about and found my sensei using her son for gambling, spoke Shizune angrily. Oink! Cried Taunton angrily at her mistress. Hey, hey now Shizune, calm down, it not like that, you see. After Naruto's training I decided to treat him to an ice pop, and when we saw the casino I came to have a look and I found a quarter on the floor. After that I was just going to have one go when Naru-chan said he wanted to and I let him, thinking it wouldn't do any harm. When he did play he kept whining and whining at the slots and then at the crap table. He a gambling genius and has more luck than a four-leaf clover, said Suan trying to explain herself. I don't what your reasons are, you had no, said Shizune angrily before she was interrupted by Suan. But he won over 20 million ryo already. I don't care if he won, said Shizune before she stopped and spoke again, TT 20 million ryo, to which Tsunade just nodded. Shizune was close to fainted when she heard this, but before she could the man of the roulette table spoke. All bets are closed, one straight up bet. At which the two women turned to see that Naruto had made a bet by himself. Naru-chan, what did you do? Cried Tsunade. I did what you said, Ka-chan. I went all or noting and beat all the money on number 2 red, replied Naruto happily, which caused his mother to cry in frustration and making her cruise herself for her poorly chosen words. As the roulette began to slow down, the two women were biting their nails out of pure nervousness while Naruto just looked on happily, not truly understand what he had just done. As the ball began to slow down further and was hoping along the other slots. I can't watch, cried Shizune as she closed her eyes as her nerves couldn't take the suspense, and was quickly joined by Tsunade as she too closed her eyes, along with Taunton, who was lying down and using her hooves to cover her eyes. As Tsunade did, she just saw the ball hoping into OO black, and thinking that they lost, Tsunade was ready to hear the man say the house won. But instead of that the man said, 2 red player wins and has broken the bank. At this Tsunade popped open her eyes and saw that the ball had indeed landed on 2 red and it must have hopped out OO black rights when she closed her eyes and hopped into 2 red. Tsunade quickly raced over to her son and started to smother him in between her giant mounds again, much to the envy of the male population again, and cry at how happy she was and proud of her little gambling genius son. Shizune on the other hand just fainted, since when she heard that Naruto won she quickly calculated that on the odds of 36 to 1. Multiplying that to the 20 million that Naruto had won and bet in a single straight up bet, which added up to Naruto winning over 720 million ryo. After they had got all the winning they cashed out and sealed all the money into a scroll and quickly left. If they had stayed they would have seen the casino owner crying, since his casino was ruined now. When they got home, Shizune berated Tsunade for taking Naruto and having him gamble for her, and told her that she was forbidden to take Naruto to a casino ever again, much to Tsunade's annoyance. She also had the money that Naruto won sent to Sarutobi so he could put it in Namikaze account, since the money was his since he won it all. Although Tsunade did cry at the loss of all the money and all the things she could buy with it. Konoha the next day. Currently sitting at his desk, the Sandaime Hokage was reading Jiraiya's newest book, Ika Ika Violence, since today was one of the few days that he had no paperwork. As he was reading there was a sudden poof, and when he looked away from his book he saw one of Suan's slug summons on his table with a scroll on its back. Greeting Hokage-sama, I have a message from Shizune-san, spoke the small slug. What you that message be then? She would like you to put the money in this scroll into the Namikaze family account. If I may ask, how much is in this scroll? Asked the old cage as he took the scroll. 720 million ryo, replied the slug summon plainly. Okay, that's 720 miles, said Sarutobi as he was about to stand up when he suddenly realized what he heard and fell down on the ground with pure shock. He quickly stood up and looked directly at the slug sum and shouted. How the hell did they get 720 million ryo? Young Master Naruto won it all when Suan-sama took him to a local casino, replied the slug summon. She took a 5-year-old boy to a casino and he won over 720 million ryo by himself, replied Sarutobi in disbelief, to which the summon only nodded. What the hell is she teaching that boy? sighed the old man, who was now trying to think how he was going to explain this massive input of money to the bank manager, let alone Seiwa Genji, the man who manages the Namikaze accounts businesses. After which the summon just left and the old Hokage got out of his seat to go to the bank, and as he did he could not help but chuckle a little. It seems that young Naruto has not inherited you bad luck at gambling, Tsunade. In fact, he has the direct opposite in terms of gambling and you. I look forward to what other surprises young Naruto will have for us when he comes to Konoha, though Sarutobi. 1 month later. Currently Tsunade was sitting in the living room reading a medical book in her new house, since they had to move out of the last town they were in, due to the fact that a 5-year-old kid winning 720 million ryo kind of draws attention to you. As Tsunade read the book she could not but sigh, since today was her birthday and the only one who remembered it was Shizune, who got her this book. Although she was grateful for the book and that Shizune remembered her birthday, she was still a bit down since Shizune was the only one who remembered. Hence it would have been nice for someone else to remember and get her something like a nice bottle of sake, chocolates or flowers even. Just as Tsunade was about to continue to read her book, she suddenly heard a shout. Ka-chan, where are you? Cried Naruto. I'm in here, Naru-chan. What wrong? Answered Tsunade. When Tsunade answered, Naruto quickly ran across the corner to enter the living. When Tsunade saw Naruto, she also saw him carrying a small Prunus cerulata bonsai tree in a small flower pot. Here, Ka-chan, happy birthday, said Naruto, holding the small bonsai tree to his mother. At first, when Tsunade saw the small tree, she did not know what to say, but she soon got over her surprise and took the bonsai tree from her son and looked at it. The small tree had smooth bark with pink and with cherry blossom flowers surrounding its small branches. All in all, it was a very beautifully tree. Tsunade then began to get teary-eyed and quickly put down the bonsai tree and then grabbed Naruto into a smothering hug, to which the poor boy could barely breathe. Thank you, Naru-chan, this is the best gift I've ever gotten, said Tsunade as she hugged her son tightly, who despite being nearly crushed to death by his mother smiled and making his mother happy. After a few minutes, Tsunade let go of Naruto and put her bonsai tree on the windowsill, after which she then turned to her son. Naru-chan, who told you it was my birthday was today? Asked Tsunade, since she knew Naruto could not have known it and someone must have told him and she had a guess who. Shizune-chan told me last week, answered Naruto, confirming what Tsunade guessed. And did she give you to the tree to me as a present? Asked Tsunade, since she suspected that this was Shizune's way of cheering her up a bit, but to her surprise Naruto shook his head. No, I got it myself, answered Naruto. Then did she give you the money or it? She asked, since with the small little bit of pocket money she gave Naruto a week, she knew he did not have enough money to buy it himself, but to her surprise Naruto shook his head again. No, I grew it, replied Naruto. This of course confused Tsunade, but then frowned. Naru-chan, now don't lie to me. But I'm not, I did grow it myself, said the boy. Naru-chan, I know full well that you can't grow a tree like that in just 1 week, replied Tsunade, frowning more since she did not like her son lying to her. But I did, Ka-chan, I really did. I tried doing it all week by myself when I bought seeds for it from the flower lady with the pocket money I had, and I finally got it a little while ago, said the boy earnestly, since he did not like being called a liar or having his mother angry at him. Then show me, Naru-chan, said Tsunade as she folded her arms, since she did not really believe him. Naruto then nodded and led his mother outside, where he then took out a seed packet for the bonsai tree from his pocket shorts. After which he then dug a small hole in the ground and put the seed into it, after which he then covered it with the soil he had dug out when making the hole. After which he then put both his hands over the spot he put the seed in and then started to channel his chakra into the ground where the seed was. What happened next made Tsunade go wide-eyed and start gasping like a fish out of water. Since as Naruto was channeling his chakra, a small sapling appeared between Naruto's hands and started to grow bigger and bigger until Naruto stopped. Where once he hadn't stepped away, Tsunade saw a small but fully grown and equally lovely Prunus cerulata bonsai tree standing next to him. NN Naru-chan, HH how on earth, DD did you do that, said the stunned Suand. Shizune Ne-chan told me about how great-grandfather Hashirama could grow big giant trees with just his chakra. I tried that but I couldn't get it, so I bought some seeds and used my chakra to make it grow bigger. It took me a few days but I was able to do it today, and once I did I came to give you your gift, said Naruto as if it was noting and did not truly realize what he had done. When Naruto finished explaining, Tsunade just continued to gap. Mokuden. Naruto has the power to use Mokuden, but how? That ability was lost when Hashirama Ojiazan died and no one in our clan has ever been able to use ability since. So how is Naruto able to do it? Does it have something to do with the Kyuubi? I need to get Jiraiya here and now, though Suand, after which she quickly put on a happy face. I see Naru-chan, that a very nice trick you learn by yourself. Why don't we go inside now and have a nice bowl of ramen, okay? Yeah, ramen, cried Naruto, happy since he loved ramen. Naruto wouldn't be Naruto without his love for ramen. Oh, and Naru-chan, let's keep you little trick our little secret for now, okay? Said Tsunade. Okay, said Naruto, not really understanding, after which he and his mother went inside. A few days later. After a few days since the incident with Naruto using Mokuden, Tsunade was able to make contact with Jiraiya through her summons and told him that she needed to speak to him imminently. Soon after, Jiraiya arrived in the town that they were staying in and came through the window right when Suand, Naruto and Shizune along with Tonton were finishing lunch. When Jiraiya entered the room he was quickly covered in smoke, after which once it lifted they could say he was standing on a medium-sized toad. Listen up, you chicks. Open up your beady little eyes and take a good look. Behold the divine ninja Jiraiya, spoke Jiraiya as he was doing his introduction dance, but before he could finish Naruto spoke up. Hiya Aro Senin. This caused Jiraiya to lose his balance and fall flat on his face in front of them. This in turn caused everyone to burst out laughing at Jiraiya's expense. I told you, brat. Stop calling me that, whined Jiraiya at his wounded pride since his cool introduction dance was ruined by Naruto outburst. But why? Both Ka-chan and Ne-chan say that you're a pervert, and you said it yourself, you are a pervert and you are a senin, so that means you're Aro Senin, said Naruto. He got you there, pervert, chuckled Tsunade while Shizune giggled and Tonton oinked in agreement. I'm not a pervert, I'm a super pervert, cried Jiraiya, and he did a ridiculous looking pose which caused everyone else to have a large sweat drop behind their heads. Jiraiya then decided to change the subject from him into why Tsunade had wanted to speak to him so badly. So what is so urgent that you needed to see me so quickly? Asked Jiraiya. Naru-chan, can you show Aro Senin your little trick? Asked Tsunade, who was smirking at Jiraiya indignant yell. Okay, replied Naruto as he, Tonton, Shizune, Tsunade and Jiraiya went outside, where Naruto then dug another hole in the ground next to the Prunus cerulata bonsai tree that he grew earlier for Tsunade. After which he then repeated the same process as he did before when she showed it to his mother. When Shizune saw this she could not help but be surprised, since although Tsunade had already told her of Naruto abilities, it was still surprising to see Naruto being able to use the same legendary ability as the Shadaime Hokage. But as surprised as Shizune was, Jiraiya was utterly flabbergasted, since even though Naruto was the Shadaime great-grandson, he never expected for Naruto to have the Shadaime Mokuden abilities. Since it was long believed that despite it having all the characteristics of a bloodline, it was never classified as one, since neither Suand, her brother, nor their father or of the Shadaime other relatives had inherited it, hence it was just believed to be a mutation. This changes everything, thought Jiraiya. Naru-chan, you go play with Tonton for a little while I talk to Jiraiya, okay? Said Tsunade as she smiled down at her son. Okay, Ka-san. Come on Tonton, let's play tag and you're it, said Naruto as he ran off. Tonton just went oink and went off to play with Naruto. When Naruto and Tonton had left, Tsunade then turned to Jiraiya with a serious look on her face. You can see why I wanted to talk to you immediately, said Tsunade and turned to face Jiraiya, who had an equally serious face and just nodded on what Tsunade had said since he was in deep thought. Jiraiya, is this an effect of the Kyuubi being inside Naruto? Asked Tsunade. No, I don't believe so, since although there has never been a Jinchuriki for the Kyuubi before, I'm still certain that isn't a side effect of Naruto having the Kyuubi inside of him, since it doesn't match the abilities that the Kyuubi is known to have. Although Jinchurikis are each given special abilities by their bijus, for example the Aikibi no Shukaku Jinchurikis always have the ability to control and manipulate sand. But in Naruto's case no, since the Kyuubi abilities have no connection to nature or Mokuden but your clan dos, hence I believe Naruto has just reawakened the Mokuden ability. But how is that possible? Mokuden is a mutation that only appeared in my grandfather, it isn't a bloodline, replied Tsunade. Well, it seems that we were wrong, since it the only answer as to why Naruto has it, spoke Jiraiya. Then why is it that my grandfather was the only person to be able to have it? Why didn't my father, Nawaki, myself inherit it from him, or any of the other members of my clan have the ability to use Mokuden as well? Asked Tsunade. The only reason I can think of is something that I read a while back when I was training in Myobokuzen, during which I came across an ancient record written by a sage long back when the great shinobi clans were only being founded. In the scroll it spoke how when the bloodlines were first showing up, it said that the bloodlines were unstable and many of the children of bloodline holders did not receive their parents' bloodline. It was not until a few generations more after the first bloodline holders of each bloodline did the bloodlines finally stabilize so that the other generations of the clans would have them. This can explain how not everyone in a clan with a bloodline can receive and use their clan's bloodline, since it may have not stabilized in certain people. The Uchiha clan is a prime example of this, since only a quarter of its members can use the Sharingan, since it was only the ancestors of that part of the clan who bloodline finally stabilize enough for it to be passed down to them, spoke Jiraiya and continued. My guess is that your grandfather was the first person to be born with the Mokuden ability, and like with the first bloodline users, the Mokuden bloodline was too unstable to be passed on to his descendants like your father, your brother and you Tsunade. But it seems that the Mokuden ability has finally stabilized with Naruto, hence why he's the one to have it, finished Jiraiya. Tsunade just nodded since it made sense, and as a medic she knew a lot about genetics, and how some genetic traits are not always inherited by everyone in a family or clan, especially if certain genes were unstable. I'm also afraid that now with Mokuden, Naruto is in even greater danger than he was before, spoke Jiraiya again, which Tsunade frowned and nodded in agreement, while Shizune just looked confused and decided to ask why. But Jiraiya-sama, why is Naruto now in more danger with Mokuden? The reason is because when word reaches the other villages and certain organizations like the Akatsuki, they will come after Naruto, since he would be very useful to the Akatsuki, with his Mokuden powers. Especially if he is properly trained in it, he could help the Akatsuki greatly by subduing the other Jinchurikis, by using his Mokuden powers to suppress their Biju's powers, making them easier for the Akatsuki to capture them. Not to mention other villages would want him to use him as a weapon to use against other Jinchurikis, since the power of the Shadaime Mokuden is well known by all, where it could match even the Sharingan in terms of powers and certain special abilities. They would want it even more if I'm right about the Mokuden finally stabilizing and becoming an official bloodline where Naruto could pass it on to his future children. In which case they would use him as a breeder to make entire clan of Mokuden users, where they would have an entire clan with the power to suppress bijus and controls them. Something that many villages would stop at noting to have, and if they could not have it they would have Naruto killed to keep others from having that kind of power. It would be even worse if they found out that Naruto was also the Jinchuriki for the Kyuubi, the strongest of all the bijus. Because if you combine the power of a Jinchuriki that contains the strongest of bijus inside him, with the power of Mokuden which can suppress biju's powers and control them, you get a force that could be virtually unstoppable. in which every village in the elemental continent would be after Naruto and wouldn't stop until either they kidnap him and gain control of him or kill him and keep him from becoming a major threat to them. The Akatsuki would even pounce on him with everything they had, since Naruto could very well ruin whatever plans they have with the Bijus, spoke Jiraiya. Shizune paled at the thought of her godson, little brother, nephew being in now greater danger than before. Suan just frowned deeper and nodded in agreement, since she had come to the same conclusion as Jiraiya had when it came to Naruto's new ability when she waited for Jiraiya to arrive. So what do we do now? Asked Shizune. We have to increase and speed up Naruto's training more than ever now, since in a couple of years Naruto will need to be as strong as he can be to fight off enemies that will be coming after him sooner or later, said Jiraiya. Should we inform the Sandaime Hokage about Naruto having Mokuden? Said Shizune. No, we keep him in the dark about it, since the fewer people know about this the better, since there might be a chance that someone like Danzo could intercept the message or somehow learn about it if we tell Sensei. Beside, when Naruto does eventually reveal that he has Mokuden to the village, Sensei will have the excuse of not knowing and he wouldn't have to deal with Danzo or his supporters on the council, trying to usurp his position over how he didn't inform them about Naruto abilities, said Jiraiya. Do we really have to reveal Naru-chan abilities to village Jiraiya? Can't we just keep it secret? Asked Suand. We have no choice, Haim. Naruto will need to learn properly control and master his Mokuden abilities if he going to stand a chance in the future. We can help him as best as we can, but still he won't be able to fully master or control his Mokuden abilities unless he gets proper training in it, answered Jiraiya. But how can he get training there? Naru-chan is the only Mokuden user in the entire world, said Tsunade. I'm afraid that's where you're wrong, Haim. There is one other, answered Jiraiya with a slight sigh. What? Jiraiya, you're not making any sense. Other than Naru-chan, my grandfather was the only other user to be able to use Mokuden and he dead, replied Suand. There is one other, said Jiraiya. Who? Said the annoyed Tsunade, who was getting annoyed with being kept in the dark. You see, back before Sensei discovered Orochimaru's experiments on the people and shinobis in Konoha to develop techniques that would grant him immortality, Orochimaru stole 60 infants and injected them with the Shidaime Hokage DNA in the hopes of recreating the Shidaime Hokage and his Mokuden. But before he could finish his work, he was forced to leave Konoha, since Sensei found out that he was behind the missing shinobis, civilians and infants. Out of the 60 infants that Orochimaru stole and injected the Shidaime Hokage DNA into, only one survived and received the ability to use the Shidaime Hokage Mokuden powers, replied Jiraiya sadly, since that event had shown how far his former friend and teammate had fallen just to gain power. But Tsunade and Shizune were shocked and horrified at the information, especially Tsunade, since she didn't think that even Orochimaru would do such a thing. But she had been wrong. Tsunade could not help but feel sick at what Orochimaru had done and swore if she ever saw the bastard she would skin him alive with her bare hands. Since as a mother and a medic, the very idea of experimenting on children in such a way turned her stomach. Jiraiya, why the hell wasn't I told about this? Said Tsunade angrily, since the idea of Orochimaru desecrating her grandfather's grave and using his DNA to experiment and murder innocent children made her furious. I'm sorry, Tsunade, but you had left the village long ago and the whole event was classified top secret. I only know because Sensei told, since he knew I was trying to track down Orochimaru, and he believed that I needed to know exactly what Orochimaru had done in the village. And who exactly is the child that survived Orochimaru experiments and gained my grandfather's Mokuden abilities? Asked Suand. The kid's name is Tenzo. He's 20 now and proven himself to be quite a ninja since he graduated out of the academy at age 6 and made Chunin a few months later. He's even one of Konoha's top Anbu and is one of Sensei's most trusted operatives, replied Jiraiya. And how skilled is he in using Mokuden? Asked Tsunade, although she was impressed with Tenzo's skill if what Jiraiya said was true. According to Sensei, he completely mastered the Mokuden jutsus that he learned from your grandfather's scrolls in the Senju clan library, although cannot use the Mokuden techniques to its full potential. hence his full power pales in comparison to that of your grandfather. But despite that, he can help Naruto greatly in training in how to use it, and possibly Naruto will be able to surpass him and use Mokuden to the same level as your grandfather could. Which it would be very likely, since he is a pure-blooded Senju and the directed descendant of the Shadaime Hokage, hence why he would be so valuable to certain people. Finished Jiraiya. After Jiraiya explanation, Tsunade just sighed, although she did not like the fact that her sensei went and took scrolls belonging to her grandfather from her clan's secret library. She understood why he did it and knew he would not abuse that privilege and return the scrolls back to the library. She then looked over at her son as he played with Tauntaun without a care in the world. She wanted nothing more than for Naruto to have a long, peaceful and quiet life where he could grow up happy, as well as have a family one day when he was older and live with them happily without having to worry about enemies attacking them or going through the hardship that he would as a shinobi. But Tsunade knew that would never happen, and now with his Mokuden powers, his life now just got a whole lot harder now. But regardless, she would help her son no matter what the cost to her, and make sure that he becomes strong enough to defend himself and those he care about, and she would make sure that he would live a long and as happy a life as possible. I hope I can count on your help when training Jiraiya, because he going to need all the help he can get, said Tsunade. Of course I do whatever I can, since I swore to Minato that I would train the boy when the time came, answered Jiraiya. I will help too, Tsunade-sensei, and even though I might not be as much help to him as you both, but I will help Naruto in any way I can, spoke Shizune. Thank you, Shizune, I knew I could count on you, said Tsunade. So when should we start? Asked Jiraiya. We start tomorrow. We'll let him have today off, since he's not going to have much time to be a kid for a while, and he might as well enjoy it when he can, said Tsunade, to which both Jiraiya and Shizune nodded and watched Naruto play with Tauntaun along with Tsunade. 2 months later. Ever since Naruto revealed to Tsunade and Jiraiya that he had inherited his great-grandfather Mokuden ability, Naruto was trained even harder than he was before. Tsunade helped him with his chakra control exercises, not that he needed much help since he had inherited her natural flawless chakra control, where he was now walking on water and was balancing small tin objects like a dull kunai on the tips of his fingers. She also helped Naruto with his physical training, where she increased his weight little by little and had him do lots of running and different exercises. Tsunade also planned to help Naruto with his fighting skills, where when he was a bit older she would put him through her special dodge training, much to Jiraiya and Shizune worry. Shizune helped Naruto how to aim and throw senbons, shurikens and kunais, as well as help him improve on his reading and writing. She was also planning on helping Naruto to study medical books when he go a little older, so to understand them better, since Tsunade wanted to train Naruto to be a medic, so that if he was ever hurt he could heal himself, since he had the control needed to make a medic, and with the proper training, and if they start early enough where they get Naruto settled in to become a medic nin, he would make a fine medic. Jiraiya was now just planning on helping Naruto to train by helping him to learn jutsus, where he planned to teach him just the basics like Henji's transformation technique, Shunshin no Jutsu, body flicker technique, Kawarimi no Jutsu, body replacement technique, and Bunshin no Jutsu, clone technique. After Naruto had finished mastering them and be able to use them in the right types of combinations, he then planned to teach Naruto a few more slightly more powerful jutsus when he got older. He did it this way since Jiraiya knew it did not matter how many different highly powerful jutsu a person have, if they did not know how to use them correctly then they were useless. Also he knew that if a person completely masters the basics and knows how to use them correctly, then they would nearly unstoppable. Jiraiya also planned that when Naruto got a little older he would teach him Fuinjutsu, and with any luck the kid would be like his old man and be a genius at it. It was at this time now that Jiraiya had arrived on Naruto's 6th birthday to see Naruto and start to train him in jutsus. But when he arrived he found out that Naruto wasn't training today, instead he had the day off, and was celebrating his birthday with Shizune, Tauntaun and his mother. When Jiraiya arrived at the house he found Tsunade and Shizune together at the house cleaning up after their little celebration of Naruto's birthday. When he asked where Naruto was, they told him that he was out in the backyard playing with Tauntaun again, with his new toy Kuni and ninja mask that he got from Shizune and his new ninja teddy that he got from Tsunade. When Jiraiya went out, he saw Naruto was playing ninja with Tauntaun, where he was chasing Tauntaun around with his ninja mask on and carrying him toy kunai and ninja teddy with him. "Hey brat, happy birthday," cried Jiraiya, getting Naruto attention. When Naruto heard him, he turned to see Jiraiya weaving and smiling at him. He took off his mask and ran over to Jiraiya. As Naruto was wearing a small white short-sleeve shirt with a spiral design on its front and wore blue shorts. Naruto had also changed a bit from in the last 2 months. He had grown a little bigger, and his whisker birthmarks that he had gotten when the Kyuubi was sealed into him were gone. Jiraiya theorized that when Naruto's awakened his Mokuden bloodline, his bloodline negated the physical effects that the Kyuubi had on his body, since the Mokuden power did suppress Biju chakra. Oh hey Arrow Sennin. This of course caused Jiraiya to face fall down onto the ground, but he quickly got up and started to yell at Naruto. "Damn it brat, I told you not to call me that," cried the Toad Hermit. "But why, it's true and it's fun," giggled Naruto, while Jiraiya just mumbled about youngest today showing no respect to their elders. So Arrow Sennin, causing Jiraiya to twitch his eyebrows in annoyance. "Did you come to play ninja with me?" asked the young blonde. "Sorry to say brat, but no I didn't. I came to tell you that I going to staying with you, Shizune, and your mom for a little while again, since I going to help you in your training," said Jiraiya. "Oh, and what are you going to be training me in, Arrow Sennin?" asked the boy, since Naruto did not mind doing training since he found it fun. "I going to be training you in jutsu," said Jiraiya, which caused the young boy to start shouting in excitement, since he had wanted to learn cool new jutsus but his mother wouldn't teach him any. "So what are you going to teach me?" "Ha. Ha. Ha. Is it going to be some super cool water jutsu like great Uncle Tobirama, or a jutsu that will let grow big gigantic trees like great grandfather Hashirama, or some super cool fire jutsus like Ka-chan told me Hiruzen Ojiazan can do?" asked Noro excitedly while he was jumping up and down. "Sorry brat, but you're nowhere near ready for those kind of jutsus. I going to teach you how to do henjas, Shunshin no Jutsu, Kawarimi no Jutsu, and Bunshin no Jutsu. When you fully mastered those and can use them in the right types of combinations, I will teach you some more," said Jiraiya. Whined Naruto, since he had wanted to learn loads of cool jutsus. "Now I was going to teach you how to do Shunshin no Jutsu, but since it's your birthday, we're going to leave that till tomorrow, since your mom told me that you have the day off today," said Jiraiya. "KKKKKKKAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAAA Hey brat, don't be so down, I got a present for you, said Jiraiya, which caused the boy to smile immediately since every kid likes getting presents. Here, said Jiraiya, taking a small brown paper package wrapped with twine out of his robe and handed it to Naruto. Thanks Ero Senin, said the boy, taking the package and ignored the grumbling from Jiraiya about youngest today. Now enjoy brat, I see you later, I have to met some who helping me with my research for my next book, said Jiraiya as he giggled perversely. Research? What that, and can I come? Asked Naruto, since he did not understand and though it might be fun. Sorry brat, you can't, it grow up stuff, maybe next time when you're older, said Jiraiya quickly, since even he had morals when it comes to taking little kids with him on his research. Besides, he knew that if did something like that, Tsunade would beat him within an inch of his life and have her slug summon Katsuyu melt off his balls with her acid. Okay, replied Naruto as we went off to open his present, while Jiraiya shunshined away. 10 minutes later in town. Jiraiya was in a small alley near the town local hot spring waiting for the person he had arranged to meet her. Soon enough, a young short brown-haired man with brown eyes and wearing a white shirt and trousers came out of the entrance of the hot spring, and quickly ran over to the small alleyway that Jiraiya was waiting in. So did you get them? Asked Jiraiya eagerly. Yeah, I got them, but I nearly caught a few times when I was taking the photos, said the man holding up over 3 dozen photos of different young girls and women in the hot spring, wearing noting but towels are noting at all. The young man who took the photos was a towel boy who worked in the hot springs collecting the towels of the women after they had finished in the hot springs and gotten dress. Jiraiya had met the boy when he was in the town on his way to Tsunade house and quickly learned that the young man was a fan of his books, and he also learned that he worked in the local hot springs. So naturally Jiraiya made a deal with the young man where in return for a little payoff, the boy would take photos of all the different young and attractive ladies who went into the hot spring for Jiraiya. Jiraiya quickly grabbed the photos and started to look through them. He then began to grin perversely and developed a large nosebleed and began to drool a little. The young man coughed loudly to get Jiraiya's attention away from the photos and onto him. I believe Jiraiya-sama, you owe me something, since I held up my end of the deal, spoke the young man. You're right, I do, said Jiraiya as he then quickly took out another small brown paper package wrapped with twine and handed it to the young man, who took it eagerly and began to quickly rip open the package. Pleasure doing business with you, said Jiraiya as he began to walk away and look back at the photos, thinking about all the different types of inspiration these photos would give him. But before he could fully walk away, he was stopped by a sudden cry from the young man. Is this some kind of joke? Cried the young man angrily. What are you talking about? Asked Jiraiya as he turned back to the man. I mean, this isn't what we agreed upon, said the man holding up a book to Jiraiya's face. The book read, The Tale of the Utterly Gutsy Shinobi. Wait a minute, this is the book I gave Naruto for his birthday, but if this is it, then that means the book I gave Naruto was, oh dear sweet Kami no. Thought Jiraiya in his mind as he realized what he had done and quickly snatched the book from the man and ran with a speed that would make Guy look slow even without his weights. All the while ignoring the angry cries of the young man about noting giving him what they had agreed upon. Several minutes later at Tsunade home. As this was happening, Tsunade was sitting down and was about to get ready for a nice nap, while Shizune was finishing cleaning up in the kitchen and Tonton was lying down next to the chair she was sitting on. But before she could fully settle down, she suddenly heard a cry. Ka-chan, where are you, Ka-chan? After which Naruto then came into the living room carrying a book in his hand. What's wrong, Naru-chan? Asked Tsunade. Ero-sennin gave me this book for my birthday, but I can't read it very well since there are lots of words on it that I can't understand, and the pictures are full of people doing funny things together, said the boy. Well, come over here, Naru-chan, and I read you the story, said Tsunade as Naruto went over to her and sat on her lap, while she began to read the page that Naruto had left open for her to read. Katara began to dress the wounds that Shin had after his fight with the dark warrior Ashi. As she dressed his wound, Shin suddenly turned around and caressed her face gently with his large hand. As he did, Katara then began to caress his chest gently with her small gentle hand. As they began to feel one another's body, Shin then suddenly grabbed hold of her chin, and kissed her deeply, pouring in all the passion he could muster and felt for her from the moment he first set eyes on her. At first Katara was caught by surprise by Shin's kiss, but she quickly got over it, and began to kiss Shin with just as much passion as he was and began to pour all her heart and emotions that she had into the kiss. As the kiss deepened, Shin began to explore Katara's body with his hands, where he then began to loosen her sash that was around her waist, after which he began to remove the upper portion of her kimono to reveal her. It was there that Tsunade stopped reading the book to her son and read it silently to herself of a minute or so, where she then realized what just she was about to read to her innocent baby. Tsunade then quickly skipped to a few pages ahead to where the pictures for the book were, and saw that what they were showing. She quickly covered her son's eyes so he could not see the images of the detail various adult images. Ka-chan, what wrong? Why aren't you reading the story? What's happening and why won't you let me see the picture? Asked the boy as he squirmed in his mother's arm and tried to get her hands off from covering his eyes, but Tsunade would not allow it. Tsunade then quickly turned to the cover of the book to see exactly what Jiraiya had given her son for his birthday, and what she had been reading to him, although she had an idea what it was. When she turned the book, she read the cover. Ika Ika Paradise, limited colored pictured edition, with author autograph, exactly what she had thought. That damn perverted excuse for a life form. I warned him what would happen to him if he tried to corrupt my Naru-chan and turn him into a pervert like him. When I get my hand on him, not even an entire army of medics will be able to heal him once I done with him. Though Tsunade furiously as she thought all the different ways he could torture and kill a certain toad pervert she knew and thought about which would be the slowest and most painful way to torture and kill him. All the while as Tsunade was thinking of this, Naruto had finally gotten out of his mother hold and got her hands off his eyes. He tried to see the pictures in the book again but could not since his mother had closed the book. He then tried to get his mother attention but she was too caught up in the different ways she would torture and kill Jiraiya to pay attention to him. And as if the heavens themselves were answering Tsunade praise, Jiraiya suddenly appeared in the living. Naruto, where are you? I gave you the wrong bow, spoke Jiraiya panic-like but stopped when he saw Naruto sitting on his mother's lap with her holding the book. It was then that Jiraiya knew he was too late and that he was dead man. When Jiraiya appeared, Tsunade slowly turned around to face Jiraiya, with a look in her eyes that was so frightening that it would have made the devil himself shit himself. The point was proven since Jiraiya nearly did so himself. She also had a smile on her face that was far too sweet, and made her look all the more sinister looking than their old teammate Orochimaru could ever look. Well Jiraiya, what a coincidence, I was just thinking about you, said Tsunade all too sweetly, which made Jiraiya shiver in fear and wanted to run as far away as possible, but couldn't since he was frozen with pure terror. All the while as this was happened, Naruto had gotten off his mother lap when she stood up and was now watching what was happening since he did not really understand what was going on. Is there something wrong, Ero Sennin? Did you met the friend you said you were going to met for your research? Asked Naruto. Well, I don't kkk no w what your tt taking about n Naruto, said Jiraiya nervously since he didn't want to get into any more trouble with Tsunade that he was in now. You know Ero Sennin, that friend that you said would help you for your research for your book, you even said that you take me with you next time, said Naruto, who had he noticed he would have seen the dark flames that were now sprouting from his mother's eyes, and Jiraiya about ready to wed himself, who was also silently cursing Naruto for opening his big mouth. It was after this revelation that Tsunade knew that her son was far too young to see the horrors that she was about to unleash upon Jiraiya and decided to call Shizune in to take Naruto away for a while. Is there something wrong, Tsunade-sensei? Asked Shizune as she came out of the kitchen to see a petrified Jiraiya who was sweating profoundly, and a sinister-looking Tsunade with an all-too-sweet smile on her face. Oh, noting Shizune, I was just wondering if you could take Naruto out to town for a little while I have a little chat with Jiraiya here about his choices in gifts to Naru-chan here, replied Tsunade sweetly. When Tsunade had finished speak, Shizune just had a confused look over her face, since she did not understand what Tsunade was talking about. But as soon as Tsunade held up the Ika Ika book to Shizune, she realized what she meant. After which Shizune turned to glare angrily at Jiraiya for trying to turn her godson, little brother, nephew into a pervert. After glaring at the petrified Jiraiya for a minute or so, Shizune then turned and kneeled down to Naruto, who was still watching this in confusion. Naru-chan, how about you and I going downtown have some ramen at the restaurant in town? At this, Naruto face immediately lit up with excitement at having his favorite food, since his mom told him he could only have ramen once a week. Since she said it was good for him and that if he ate noting but that then it would stunt his growth. Yay, ramen, cried Naruto happily and was about to go with Shizune when he stopped and turned to Jiraiya and his mother. Ero Sennin, Ka-chan, aren't you coming with us? Asked the boy. Jiraiya, deciding that this was his best and only chance of escape, quickly came out of his petrified state. Sure thing Naruto, and the ramen will be on me, spoke Jiraiya quickly and tired to run off to town so to avoid Tsunade beating. But before he could run away, Tsunade caught Jiraiya by the collar and kept him in place even despite the fact that he kept trying to run. But Tsunade's grip was iron tight and she just slammed Jiraiya down onto the floor hard. You go ahead, Naru-chan, Jiraiya and I are going to play a little game called Operation, said Tsunade with a sadistic smile on her face that would have scared even Orochimaru. Oh okay Ka-chan. Come on Taunton you can come too, said Naruto as he went off with Shizune with Taunton getting up and crying, oink, and following after Naruto and Shizune. No. Wait Naruto take me with you too, screamed the pervert as his fingernails scratching up the floor as Tsunade dragged him into the next room and then throwing him into the corner of the room. After which the toad hermit began to pray for the heavens to take him now into their sweet embrace, but sadly they weren't listening right now and were just going to sit back and enjoy the show. As Tsunade's towering figure was standing over the cowering Jiraiya, who was hunchback against the corner wall try to plead for mercy, they heard Naruto cry out as he left the house with Shizune. Have fun Ka-chan with Arrow Sennin. Ku, 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 oh. I will Naru-chan I will, chuckled Tsunade maniacally over the cowering Jiraiya. C-C come on Heim. It was an AA accident, HHH honest, why you know me, pleaded Jiraiya as she tried to reason with Tsunade but unfortunately for Jiraiya Tsunade was not in a reasonable mood. Oh, I know you Jiraiya all too well and it would be just like you to try and corrupt my sweet innocent little Naru-chan and become a pervert like you, said Tsunade and she towered over Jiraiya like she was the Shinigami itself. Soon enough for miles around people could hear the terrified screams of Jiraiya as well as screams of pain as he screamed to the heavens. A few hours later Naruto, Taunton and Shizune would return from town and find Tsunade sitting down enjoying a drink of sake and what looked like some kind of deformed human. That was in a heap across from Tsunade who barely even looked human anymore, and by the way it continued to groan in pain. It gave the impression that its very existence right now was full of noting but consistent pain and suffering. It was later on that they learned that the deformed creature was Jiraiya after Tsunade had finished with him. All in all it was just another day with Tsunade's family. 2 years after Naruto had revealed his Mokuden abilities, Tsunade, Taunton, Shizune and Naruto were now staying in a small village in Oni no Kuni, Demon Country. The village was a quiet and small village that was positioned in a small valley with a large forest north of it, a medium-sized river that flowed gently down out of the valley south of it and with crops and fields west of the village where the farmers grew their food for the village. The place had been a perfect spot for the group, since it was quiet and out of the way of most places and the village had no real medic. Many of their old and young were suffering for a small disease that affected people with a low immune system, which resulted in them being bedridden and unable to eat properly for several weeks. But thankfully when Tsunade arrived the problem was resolved in a matter of a few days. As the people in the village were busy doing their daily activities they suddenly heard loud explosions and could see large dust clouds coming from the other edges of the forest north of the village. Normally if the villagers saw this they would have been concerned about it and believed that they were under some kind of attack. But they had grown used to seeing such thing after the first few weeks of the arrival of Tsunade, Taunton, Shizune and Naruto, although they did not know that it was Tsunade since she still had her genjutsu henge over her and Shizune and they went by different names. Since this had come to be a common occurrence to outside the village at this time, they had learned that at this time Tsunade would train her son Naruto in her special training exercise at this time. With Tsunade and Naruto, dodge, shouted Tsunade as she threw a massive dodge ball at Naruto who barely dodged it. Naruto had grown a good bit over the time, he was still quite skinny but despite that he was quite strong for his age thanks to his training, and had lots of energy. Naruto wore an short-sleeved green shirt, with black short pants and brown sandals. This type of training had been a common thing to be seen going on between Naruto and Tsunade in the past few months. Since when she first saw that Naruto had inherited her natural flawless chakra control she hoped that with this training Naruto would gain her superhuman strength. Naturally when Jiraiya and Shizune first heard Tsunade saying that she was now going to have Naruto go through her special training, they became very concerned for Naruto's safety and well-being. But fortunately Naruto had two things going for him. One was that thanks to his high stamina and all the running around that he did when he was younger had given him excellent reflexes and good speed, for a kid his age, so that he could dodge the balls quickly without getting hit and not get tired from doing it for several hours. The other was the only real side effect that he got from having the Kyuubi inside of him. The Kyuubi had given him a quick healing factor. Where Naruto could recover from chakra exhaustion very quickly and most wounds he would heal within minutes if not a few hours, depending of how serious the wound was. This had helped Naruto greatly since it allowed him to survive Tsunade's training with little effect, especially when it came to taijutsu training with his mother. Since when Tsunade did taijutsu training with Naruto, she used her full power on Naruto, where he mainly dodge and try and counterattack at the same time, while wearing specially designed gravity weight seals that Jiraiya given him to wear most of the time. Needless to say, Naruto usually returned home with broken bones of a lot of bruises, but regardless of them the training was working, since Naruto's speed was increasing dramatically and his taijutsu style was improved as well. Tsunade even stated at the way he was going Naruto would soon have a firm grasp of her superhuman strength, even though it would still be a couple of more years before he could ever be able to use it to the same level as she could. For several hours Tsunade threw and threw hundreds of dodge balls at her son, where the dodge balls would often explode by the sheer power of the thrown, when it hit the ground or a tree. After a while of this, Naruto was starting to get tired of always dodging and decided to strike back. Soon after, when Tsunade threw another dodge ball and shouted, "Dodge!" Naruto leapt into the air at the incoming dodge ball and channeled all the chakra he could gather. As the dodge ball was about to hit him, Naruto did mid-air spin kick and hit the dodge ball with all the strength he could mustered with his chakra-enhanced kick. When Naruto kicked the ball, the power he put into the kick was so great that it overpowered Tsunade's throw. After which Naruto's kick blasted the ball right back at Tsunade with twice the velocity that she threw it with. She was so shocked by what Naruto had done that she had barely been able to dodge the ball, which exploded once it hit that spot that Tsunade had been a second ago. After Tsunade had narrowly dodged the ball, she turned to look at her son, who was somehow still standing after putting so much of his remaining chakra into the kick and was breathing heavily from exhaustion. Incredible. Even after constantly dodging all my throws non-stop for most of the morning, he still had enough strength and power to overpower one of my throws at full power. I knew he was slowly getting better at being able to use my strength, but still. I never thought he have enough control over it to be able to block it and hit it back at me with twice of much force as what I threw at him. Not to mention he's still able to stand up after putting so much power into that kick, after doing something like he should be dead on his feet and unconscious on the ground. Thought Tsunade in shock, but quickly got over it, and a large smirk appeared on her face. But then again, he is my son after all. All right, Naru-chan, that enough for today, spoke Tsunade, after which she then started to seal away the large bag that held the remaining dodge balls. But, pant, ka-chan, pant, I can sti, pant, still key, pant, keep going, pant, said Naruto tiredly. That may be true, Naru-chan, but remember what I said about pushing yourself too far. Now come over here so I can heal you, said Tsunade, where her son was too tried to argue and went over to her to be healed. After a little while, Naruto was fully healed and was itching to start training some more, but his mother wouldn't allow it. But Ka-chan, why can't I? Since you said the more I train the stronger I get, and I want to get as strong as you, Ero Sanin and the Yondaime, said Naruto. Naruto knew a lot about the Yondaime thanks to all the stories that Jiraiya told him about, although Tsunade didn't really like it, since she was still angry at Minato for turning their son into a Jinchuriki. But Naruto was still unaware of the fact that the Yondaime was his father, since both Tsunade and Jiraiya had decided not to tell Naruto until he was ready, in case he accidentally blurted it out to someone. Whenever Naruto asked about his father, the subject was always changed. Naruto also didn't know about the Kyuubi being sealed into him either, since like with the knowledge of his father it was decided to keep secret for the same reason. Yes, Naru-chan, that true, but if we kept training you be too tried to do your studies with Shizune, replied Tsunade. H. But I like training more, wind Naruto. Now Naru-chan, you know that your studies with Shizune are just as important as your other training, and if you want to be as good at healing as I am, then you have to study hard, said Tsunade, which convinced her son to agree and start to head home. During the last year Naruto had become very eager to learn about being a medic, which was a dramatic change from when Tsunade had first hired a few months after his 6th birthday. Since when Tsunade first hired to get Naruto to study to learn to be a medic, Naruto was not interested, since he found all the studying boring and wanted to either play with Tonton or play other kids or train so that he kick butt, Naruto's words, like Jiraiya or Minato. But that all changed when Naruto was 7, when he found a wounded rabbit in the forest near one of their houses that they had stayed in. When Naruto found the rabbit, it had been just attacked by a wild eagle, which had been scared off when it saw Naruto come over. When Naruto saw that the rabbit had been badly hurt, he had become greatly distressed since he hated seeing animals hurt, where he went to his mother carrying the injured animal to her in hopes that she could do something. Thankfully, despite not being a vet, Tsunade knew what to do since she still knew enough about most living creature biology. When Naruto saw how easily his mother had helped to heal the injured rabbit, he had become interested. After that, he decided to ask his mother if he could go with her when she went to heal people, which she happily agreed to. During the trips, Naruto became more and more interested in medical jutsu, since he saw how his mother helped so many people with it and how happy she made the people she healed as well as their families. It was then after his mother had healed a young girl, whom Naruto had befriended earlier, who had been seriously injured in an accident when she was playing with other children, that Naruto told his mother he wanted to be trained as a medic, much to his mother's joy, since he told her that he wanted to be a butt-kicking combat medic, where he would kick load of bad guys' butt, and help heal people who are hurt at the same time. After Tsunade heard Naruto's little decree, she had agreed to train Naruto to be a medic, even though it wasn't exactly what she had wanted. Suan knew it was the best she could get. After Naruto decided to train to be a medic, Tsunade started to train Naruto in medical ninjutsu and how to use his chakra to help heal others. Shizune also helped by teaching Naruto about how each part of the body works and what to do if certain things happen, like if a person had broken arm or if they were suffer a heart attack. It had been difficult at first, since Naruto found it difficult to try and remember the names of the different organs or bones and what they do for the body. Even despite Naruto's love of reading things and trying to learn from simple easy-to-read medical books for beginners, he still had trouble focusing on what he was trying to learn. But Shizune had found a unique way to help teach Naruto. For example, putting different cartoon-like faces, as well as imprinting thoughts and feelings onto the pictures of each organ and body, so to help make it both fun and easier for Naruto to focus on them and remember them. She also made up different rhymes or little songs to help Naruto remember the names of the body parts and what they were connected to and do, as well as what to do if with certain injuries happened. Tsunade had naturally been skeptical at first when Shizune had suggested it, but when Shizune applied her idea to help teach Naruto, Tsunade soon saw that the teaching method was working perfectly, since Naruto improved greatly in his medical nin training. Tsunade herself praised Shizune for her teaching skills. She even stated that Shizune had a gift in helping to teach children and helping them learn. This of course caused the young women to blush bright red at her sensei praise, since it was not too often that Tsunade would praise someone. But even despite Naruto growing progress in his medical training, he was still a long way from being able to heal people properly, even with just simple injuries or illnesses. Also, Naruto was now learning about fuinjutsu, sealing techniques, from Jiraiya, where he was teaching Naruto how to seal simple things into scrolls like a kunai, after which when he returned, Jiraiya would then start to teach him other slightly more advanced sealing techniques. After a little while, Tsunade and Naruto reached their small house that they were staying in for now. When they were about to go in, Shizune quickly came of the house with a slightly concerned look on her face. Tsunade-sensei, I glad that you're here. There is a man here looking for you to help heal someone, said Shizune. So, what is the problem with that? A lot of people have come here looking for me when they needed to be healed or someone else to be healed, replied Tsunade, since it was common enough for it to happen with her as a healer. No, he not looking for you, he looking for you, spoke Shizune. At this, Tsunade suddenly understood what Shizune meant and narrowed her eyes, since the only people that would know where she, meaning the real her, Tsunade the Slug Princess, was, where Jiraiya and the Sandaime. Naru-chan, you and Shizune stay out here and practice throwing your Senbon needles, while I go inside and talk to the person inside, okay, said Tsunade as she turned around to Naruto with a smile on her face as if there was nothing wrong. Okay, Ka-chan. Come on, Nei-chan, said Naruto as he pulled the end of Shizune Koso's robe to get to come along with him. Since he didn't think anything was wrong, since a lot of people came back to ask his mother to heal them or some else. After a quick nodded of understanding to Tsunade, Shizune then went with Naruto. Inside Tsunade house. When Tsunade entered the room, she saw a young man with brown hair and glasses wearing an official uniform of a guardsman of Oni no Kuni, as well as carrying a pack of arrows and a bow on his back. Greetings, Tsunade-sama, it is an honor to meet you in person, said the young man as he bowed down on the floor. I afraid you're mistaken since I not heard my name as Yakumo, replied Tsunade. There is no mistake, Tsunade-sama, so you can remove your disguise, replied the man. Tsunade narrowed her eyes, after which she then changed her form, from a short red-haired woman with blue eyes, to her usual form. So who are you and how did you know where I was staying and that I was in disguise? Asked Tsunade, as she was on guard in case the man was some sort of assassin or kidnapper. My name is Tadaho and I am one of the personal bodyguards of the High Priestess Lady Moroku, ruler and protector of Oni no Kuni, spoke the man named Tadaho. The High Priestess? Asked Tsunade in surprise. Hi, and she is in great need of your help, Tsunade-sama, said Tadaho, and he bowed down to her again. Lady Moroku is gravely ill, due to an assassination attempt on her life by an assassin from a rival country who had hoped to kill her to disrupt the leader of our country. Fortunately, Lady Moroku was able to foresee the attack and warn us about it. Where we were able to capture him, but unfortunately the assassin had a backup plan and had poisoned her food. The best doctors in our land have tried to help her, but all have failed. She had even recently went into a coma due to the poison. You are our only hope she has of surviving. Please, Tsunade-sama, I beg you save Lady Moroku, said Tadaho, still keeping his head on the ground. Before I say anything, I want you to answer a question for me, spoke Tsunade without showing any emotion. How did you find out that I was here and that I was in disguise? Asked Tsunade, since she needed to know who they knew she was here. Before Lady Moroku went into her coma, she had one last vision, where she saw you in disguise in this village with your student and a young blonde boy who she believed was your son, spoke Tadaho. At this, Tsunade frowned and went into deep thought and said nothing. After several minutes of silence, Tsunade spoke up again. Very well, I will help heal the High Priestess, but on one condition. Name it, Tsunade-sama, and it will be done, I swear it, spoke Tadaho as he stood up. Before I tell you, I want to know, other than yourself and the High Priestess, does anyone else know about the vision that she had about my son and me? Asked Tsunade. No. Lady Moroku only told me of her vision about you and your son, replied Tadaho. Good. Then my condition is simple, that both you and the High Priestess swear not to reveal the fact that I have a son to anyone until the day it is officially known to other countries. Since I have many enemies out in the world that would come after my son just to get to me, and until the day he is either strong enough to defend himself or has enough protection, no one can know that he even exists. Is that clear? Said Tsunade forcefully, since she would allow no harm to come to her son. Of course, Tsunade-sama, I understand perfectly, and I swear no one will learn the existence of your son from me, and I'm certain Lady Moroku will agree as well, replied Tadaho. Good. Because should you or the High Priestess ever break your oath and leak the information about my son to others, and it puts him in danger. I swear there will be no place on this earth that you can hide from me. Is that clear? Threatened Tsunade in a deadly tone as she flooded the room with her killing intent, making Tadaho freeze in fear and cause a cold sweat to run down his back. Ha hi. Tsunade-sama you understand P perfectly, said Tadaho fearfully as he had never been so scared in his entire life. Good. Then we will leave in 1 hour, spoke Tsunade as she stood up to go and talk to Shizune. When Tsunade left, Tadaho slouched down and let out a large sigh as the killing intent died out. Truly, there is nothing more dangerous in this world than a mother protecting its child, though Tadaho as he shivered slightly in fear as the memory of Tsunade killing intent was still fresh in his mind. 3 days later. After about 3 days of traveling, Tsunade and the group soon arrived at the estate for the high priestess of the demon country. When they arrived at the main gate, Tsunade had her special genjutsu activated on both her and Shizune to make sure that no one would know it was her. The excuse as to why she was here was based sort on the truth, where Tadaho had told the guards that she was a healer from a far-off village that was said to be highly skilled in poisons and could help the high priestess. When Tsunade entered the room, she had Tadaho dismiss all the servants and other healers in the room so that she could begin her work without being bothered. When all the servants and the other healers were gone, Tsunade cancelled the henge over her and Shizune and began to diagnose the high priestess. After a few minutes, Tsunade finished her diagnoses on high priestess and turned to Tadaho, who remained in the room. I'm afraid that the toxin that the high priestess has been poisoned with was a highly toxic and highly dangerous one, that even some of the most skilled healers would have difficulty treating, spoke Tsunade. What exactly is the poison, Tsunade-sama, and what does it do? Asked Tadaho. The poison came from a very rare and highly toxic mushroom called the black spotted mushroom. It can be made into a powder, gas or liquid form, where it can be breathed in, injected or digested through food. Once the poison is in the body, it destroys the cells, causing the body and the organs to fail and slowly killing the person over time. The effects typically include a nagging cough and other undetectable but common symptoms. It is very hard to detect and even harder to cure, said Tsunade grimly. See, can you treat it, Tsunade-sama? Asked Tadaho worriedly. Yes, I can, by extracting the poison from her body, but it will be difficult, replied Tsunade. Whatever you need, Tsunade-sama, please tell me and I shall get it, spoke Tadaho. I need you to get several large bowls of hot water and bring them here, ordered Tsunade as she was going into her healer mode, where she got Shizune and Naruto to help her get everything needed to help the high priestess. Soon enough, Tadaho had servants bring over 24 bowls of hot water to the door, where he then brought them into the room. Tsunade then had him and Shizune help restrain the high priestess when she extracted the poison from the high priestess' body. Once Shizune and Tadaho had restrained the high priestess and were holding onto her, to make sure that she stayed still. Suan then used her Chakura no Mesu chakra scalpel to make an incision into the one of the affected parts of the high priestess body, after which she used her Seiken Chushutsu no Jutsu delicate illness extraction technique. Where she extracted the toxin from the high priestess body, it was a slow process and was quite painfully for the high priestess, for even though she was unconscious, her body struggles in pain. Naruto also did his part to help by changing the water each time for his mother as she slowly extracted the poison from the high priestess body. After about an hour or so of slow and painful extraction, Tsunade had finally extracted the last of the poison out of the high priestess body. It's done. Virtually all the poison is out of her body now, sighed Tsunade as she wiped the sweat off her brow. Then will Lady Moroku recover? Asked Tadaho hopefully. She should, once I have used some of the extracted poison to help make a medicine that will take care of the remainder of the poison in her body and help her body recover more quickly. I will also stay for a while here to make sure that the high priestess does not suffer any relapses or something else happens, since she is in a fragile state right now. Thank you, Tsunade-sama. I cannot thank you enough. We are forever in your debt, said Tadaho as he was kneeling on the floor with his head down in gratitude to Tsunade. To which Tsunade just nodded. Tadaho, do you have a greenhouse area and a medial area I can use so to make the medicine for the high priestess? Asked Tsunade. Yes we do, I shall have a servant lead you there immediately. Ka-chan, can I help too? Asked Naruto, who wanted to help as well. Thank you Naru-chan, but you can't because it's very hard to do and you're not ready yet. Why don't you go with Tonton out to the garden and play, said Tsunade. Groaned Naruto since he wanted to help plus he didn't have anyone really to play with. Sure he had Tonton and he liked playing with her. It was just that he would have liked to play with other kids his own age, since it was hard for him to make and keep friends since he was always moving from place to place with his mother, Nei-chan and Tonton. Naruto-san, if you like, maybe you can play with Lady Moroku daughter Shion, since I was about to go to her and tell her that her mother will be okay, since she has been very worried about her. I'm sure that Shion would love to have someone her own age to play with since she does not have many friends to play with as well, said Tadaho kindly as he knelt down to Naruto. Tadaho knew that Shion had been very worried for her mother when she started to fall ill. Ever since then the poor young girl had been crying herself to sleep, since she had been so worried about her mother dying and leaving her alone. This was because her mother was all she had, since her father had died in a horse-riding accident when she was only a year old and she did not really have any friends. Since like her mother she had the power to see into the future, but since she was so young she could not control it and would often see people deaths. This caused people to fear her, especially other children, since they thought that if they went near her they would die, hence they would run away from her. He hoped that once he brought the good news about her mother and Naruto to play with her, it would brighten the girl up. He only hoped that Naruto would not be scared away from Shion, since the girl was desperately lonely and badly needed a friend. When they left the room, Tadaho had 2 guards placed inside the high priestess room and 2 outside the room, to make sure no more assassins would try to get in. After which he then called a servant over and ordered him to show Tsunade and Shizune, who had their henges back on, where the medical area and the greenhouse area was. After that Tadaho then lead Naruto and Tonton, who was following Naruto, to where Shion room was and tell her the good news about her mother. Shion bedroom. Currently in her bedroom, the young daughter of the high priestess Shion was in the corner of her bedroom. She was sitting down on the floor with her legs held tightly against her chest and her head against her legs. Her eyes were puffy red from crying for most of the time, since she was worried for her mother and was afraid that she would die and leave her all alone. Shion was wearing a long yellow and gold robe-like coat with red baggy pants and a plain white shirt. She also wore her long blonde hair down and had a round glass-like charm that would ring like a tiny bell hung on the left-hand side of her head. As she sat quietly in her little corner, she heard a knock on her door. "Go away, I told all of you to just leave me alone," cried Shion, since she did not want to talk to anyone. "Shion-san, it is me Tadaho, I have news about your mother, may I please enter," spoke Tadaho. "Okay-san," said Shion, after which she let Tadaho in. Okay-san DD, said Shion as she tried to say the words she dreaded but found she could not. "No she did not Shion-san," said Tadaho since he knew what the girl was thinking. "She is actually much better now. I was able to make contact with a healer that lived in one of the outer villages and had her come here to heal your mother. Thanks to her she was able to heal your mother and is now working on a medicine that will help her mother get better." Why yo, you mean Okazen isn't going to die?" asked Shion as she dared to hope. Tadaho just nodded to her that it was true, where Shion then ran over to Tadaho and hugged him tightly and started to cry again, but this time with tears of joy. After a few minutes Shion finally stopped crying and looked up at Tadaho and spoke. "See, can I see Okazen?" "I'm afraid not Shion-san, since your mother is still in a coma, but I sure she will awaken up very soon, and once she does and has regained some of her strength you can see her, I promise," said Taoho, to which Shion just nodded. "Also Shion-san, I have something else to tell you," said Tadaho, which caused the girl to look at him curiously. "The healer I brought has a son named Naruto. He is about your age and like you he doesn't really have that many friends, since he moves around a lot with his mother. Also since his mother is staying here for a while I thought you and him could meet and become friends since he doesn't really have anyone to play with either. At this Xian began to get worried since she was afraid that like the other children she tired to play with he would run away and call her freak like all the others. But won't he just run away like all the others, said Xian. At this a sad look appeared over Tadaho, since he felt for the poor girl, since she was very lonely and just wanted a friend and he hoped that Naruto would be that friend for her. I do not think he will Xian-san, since he seems to be a very kind young boy and I'm sure he just wants to be your friend, if you let him. After a bit of convincing Tadaho was finally able to get Xian to agree to at least talk to Naruto, as long as Taoho was here with her. After which Tadaho then opened the door and brought Naruto in who was accompanied by Taunton. Hi, greeted Naruto when he saw Xian who was hiding behind Taoho shyly. When Naruto greeted her Xian did not speak and she just hid behind Tadaho for fear of being rejected by Naruto like all the other children she had tired to befriend. Seeing at how nervous and shy Xian was Naruto decided to go over to her, where he went around Tadaho so that he could face her. Hello Xian, my name is Naruto, would you like to play with me, since there aren't really any other kids around and since my Ka-chan is going to be here for a little while, it'd be nice if I had someone else to play with, said Naruto. At first Xian said noting, but after a few minutes Xian suddenly spoke. Didu, why yo you, really, want to play with me? Yay, you're not afraid of me? Asked Xian, where she began to hope that she might actually have a friend. Why would I be? It's just that, other kids run away from me, and call me freak because I can see things that they can't. Then those kids are all idiots if they say that. My Ka-chan told me that no matter how different we are or what we can do, no one should be treated unfairly and no one should be alone. So you really want to be my friend? Asked Xian, to which Naruto just nodded and held out his hand, which Xian nervously took hold of. Oink! Cried Taunton. This caused Xian and Naruto to take notice of her. Oh sorry Taunton, I forgot to introduce you. Xian, this is Taunton, my family pet Big and my friend, introduced Naruto. Hello Taunton, said Xian, as she kneeled down and started to pet Taunton on the head and scratched behind her ear, which the small Big enjoyed very much. Hey, do you want and go play tag with Taunton and me? Asked Naruto. Sure, said Xian, after which Naruto then grabbed a hold of Xian where they and Taunton ran off outside. As the two children and the pig ran off, Tadaho could not help but smile, since it was the first time that he saw Xian smile in a very long time. He was also happy to see that she finally had a friend that was not scared of her. Outside in the estate garden, for the next hour or two Xian, Naruto and Taunton played together happily, where they played games like tag, hide and seek, other such games. After that Xian showed Naruto around the estate. She even brought Naruto to a hidden part of the garden where her mother and she would plant flowers. This is where Okazen and I go sometimes to plant flowers, said Xian to Naruto as they looked around the different flowers. As Naruto looked around he saw a dying flower bush near the end of the flower patch. What wrong with that? Asked Naruto as he pointed to the dying flower bush. When Xian saw what Naruto was pointing at she could not but blush and look down at shame. That was a rose bush that I tried to grow by myself, since most of the flower her were grown by Okazen and the rest were grown by me with Okazen help. I told her I wanted to do one by myself, but it was harder than I thought it would be with Okazen help. No matter what I tried it wouldn't grow right and started to die, said Xian sadly and embarrassed. If you like I can help, offered Naruto. What ca you do? Asked Xian. Well, there is a special trick that I learned and could do that might help. But you have to promise that you won't tell anyone, not even your Ka-chan or Tadaho-san, okay? Said Naruto. Okay, I promise. Pinky swear, said Naruto holding out his pinky finger. Pinky swear, repeated Xian as she locked her pinky finger with Naruto's. Okay then, said Naruto as he went over to the dying bush where he grabbed hold of the main trunk part of the bush and started to channel chakra into the rose bush. At first Shien was confused as to why Naruto was grabbing a hold of the rose bush. But before she could ask him, she saw the rose bush beginning to grow bigger and bigger. It then started to sprout leaves and then rose flowers, and right before Shien the rose bush became fully bloomed. "How did you do that?" asked Shien in awe when Naruto had gotten up and dusted off his pants. "It's a special power that I have. It's called Mokuden, would release, it's a Kekkei Genkai, bloodline, it's kind of like your powers." Shien told Naruto about her powers, said Naruto. "What exactly can you do with it?" asked Shien. "Well, like you saw, I can make trees and plants grow. My great-grandfather had the same ability, although he could only grow trees, I can also help grow plants. My great-grandfather could do loads of cool things with it, where he could make trees or entire forests wherever he wanted. He could even make wooden mansions or houses out of nowhere. He also created my Ka-chan home village Konoha and the massive forest that surrounds it in a single day," said Naruto with a bit of pride for how powerful his great-grandfather was, while Shien was just in awe. "Also, from what Ka-kan told me, he was also able to use his power in the same kind of way your power works," spoke Naruto, which got a confused look Shien. "My great-grandfather was able to use Mokuden to help suppress and control demons and seal them away." "Can you do that?" asked Shien in surprise, which Naruto answered by shaking his head. "No, or at least not yet, since I'm nowhere near what my great-grandfather can do, since I can't grow a big giant tree out of nowhere like he could. The best I can do is being able to grow trees and flowers out of seeds that I buy and grown them in the different ways and shapes I want them to. According to Ka-chan, I got a long way to go before I ever get to my great-grandfather's level, since I have to learn it by myself for now. Can't your Okazen help you to get better at being able to do it?" asked Shien. "She can't. Since she can't do it, I'm the only one in my family that can do it, since my great-grandfather was the only person who could do it in my clan," said Naruto. "What about you, Otosan, father, couldn't he help?" asked Shien, but instantly regretted it when a sad look came across Naruto's face. "I don't have a Tochan," another less formal way to say father, or at least not now. He died just when I was born, from what Ka-chan told me. She doesn't talk about it much, since every time I ask she gets this angry look on her face and changes the subject, said Naruto. "Sorry," said Shien sadly. "It's okay. I never knew him and I probably find out about him later on, so there no problem," said Naruto as he put on a happy face. "So are there any other things you can do?" asked Shien, so to change the subject. "Yeah, there are some other things I can do, but I can't say, since I could get in a lot of trouble with Ka-chan if I did. Hell, I get in a lot already if she found out I told you about me being able to do Mokuden." "Why's that?" asked Shien. "Ka-chan told me that there are a lot of bad people out there that would like to take me away because of me being able to do Mokuden. This is because I'm the first one to be able to do it since my great-grandfather. If those people found out, they come after me and take me away from my family. They would then make me use my powers to do a lot of bad things for them, since thanks to my great-grandfather power, he was able to become one of the strongest ninjas around, and since I have the same power, those bad people would think I could be just as powerful as he was, hence they would want me under their control. That is why I have to keep my powers secret from everyone until I'm strong enough." "Can you really become as strong as your great-grandfather?" asked Shien. "One day maybe, since Ka-chan and Shizune-chan are training me as well as Ero-sanin, my perverted uncle." The last comment got a confused look from Shien until Naruto explained how Jiraiya would peek on women when in the hot spring. This of course caused Shien to scowl, finding what Jiraiya did disgusting. "Besides, it's my dream one to become stronger than my hero, the Yondaime Hokage who defeated the Kyuubi by himself. It also my dream to become a great healer like Ka-chan and become a Konoha ninja like the rest of my family were, as well as become Hokage like my great-grandfather, my great-great-uncle, and like the Yondaime," spoke Naruto. "Well, I think you can do said Shion, which caused Naruto to smile and blush slightly. After that, the two continued to talk with one another about different things for a few hours, although Naruto didn't mention or show any more of his abilities to Shion, since he didn't want to get into more trouble with his mother in case she found out he told Shion. This continued until they were called by Tadaho and a few of the other guards to come for dinner.